evening, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Chatter. First off, there's a lot of TV news that just came out. A few cancellations, actually. CBS cancels a comedy after 2 seasons. CBS has canceled one of its shows after just 2 seasons. The CBS comedy The Millers got the axe this week, claiming ratings have not been as good as its premiere season. On the other hand, fans of So You Think You Can Dance will be happy to know that Fox has renewed the series. However, TV Land has canceled a long-running sitcom. Fans of Hud and Cleveland will be sad to hear that the TV Land has canceled the show after 6 seasons. It will end next year. It was TV Land's first scripted sitcom. FX Network has also dumped Anger Management. The series finale will air on December 22nd. Fans of Long Island Medium will be happy to know that her Christmas special will air on December 7th on TLC. Now on to Dancing with the Stars. This season's semifinal featured the Plugged Unplugged theme, which is not one of my favorites. This means that they use the same song for both of their routines, just one is plugged, aka full band acoustic, and the other is unplugged, or sung by just one person or with no words at all, just instrumentals. They also do a different dance style for each dance. Starting off the night were Sadie and Mark with a quick step. It was a very modern, interesting quick step, despite an emotional week for Sadie, who kept stressing about what she thought was a mistake at the end of last week's routine. Their score was a 37, going up 1 point from last week's first round total. Tommy and Peta were next with a jazz routine. It was a really good dance with interesting choreography. They earned a 28, dropping just 1 point from last week. Bethany and Derek danced the samba. It was a good dance, but I felt Bethany was a little unsure of herself in some places. The ending was funny. They earned a 36, staying the same from last week's first round score. This is not the week to be doing that. Janelle and Val had a paso doble. Val had a visit from Max during rehearsals, which I think honestly pumped him up and gave him an extra boost. Possibly the one he needed. It was an interesting dance with good form, but I felt the ending was too fast. They earned a perfect score, increasing from last week's first round score by 2. Alfonso and Whitney, the comeback team, danced an Argentine tango, despite Alfonso having severe back injuries that almost threatened to remove him from the competition completely. He danced through that pain, and I also saw a mix of paso doble in his Argentine tango routine. Their score was a 36, dropping them 1 point from last week. Now for round 2, the unplugged season. Sadie and Mark had an Argentine tango, which I felt was a very innovative and wonderful dance. They got a 37 for a grand total of 74. Tommy and Peta had a rumba routine. They went with a Nutcracker ballet theme, which really worked and balanced well. It actually produced tears from judges Julianne and Carrie Ann, along with Peta and Erin. They earned a 34, one of Tommy's highest scores of the whole competition. Their grand total for the night was a 62. Bethany and Derek danced the contemporary, which was simply beautiful. They earned a perfect score, giving them a grand total of 76. Janelle and Val had an Argentine tango as well, which was also a great dance with good speed. They earned a 38, giving them the lead for the night with a total of 78. Alfonso and Whitney defeated the odds stacked against them and performed a beautiful contemporary routine, although you could clearly tell he was in severe pain in a few places. They earned a nearly perfect 39, giving them a total of 75. Sadie and Mark and Tommy and Peta were the bottom 2 this week, but ultimately Tommy and Peta were knocked out, 1 week shy of the finals. Despite not winning, Tommy now holds the record for the oldest person to make it to the semifinals in all 19 seasons of the show. Next week's finale is in a 2-night format. There is a show on Monday night in which the remaining 4 will dance. On Tuesday night, a special will air at 8 p.m. Eastern titled The Road to the Finals, in which we will hear the personal thoughts of the 4 finalists, as well as they will be answering questions that have been tweeted to them. Then, from 9 to 11 p.m. is the finale, where the top 4 dance to the number 1 position, and all the eliminated players are back and make some kind of appearance. Now that we are nearing the finals, I want to know, what would you like me to fill the Dancing with the Stars gap with? As you know, my show features segments, such as the Cold Case segment, the Review segment, Dancing with the Stars, local news, TV news, all different segments. Which segment would you like me to add? Would you like me to not add a new segment, but rather double up on some of the segments I have, such as the Cold Case, and do a Cold Case double feature? Would you like me to make a new segment? Suggestions are welcome. Or just go with the flow and have shorter shows until season 20. This is ultimately your show. So what would you like to see me replace Dancing with the Stars with during the break? Dancing with the Stars will not fully be removed until the show is removed. Comments are welcome. Speaking of Cold Case, let's talk about Wisconsin. This is a very old Cold Case, so chances that anybody on this show knows information is probably slim, but I figured I'd give it a shot. Leo Roque, 48, was a Two Rivers, Wisconsin police officer who was shot and killed during an ambush on October 4th, 1926, while on duty at the police station on 17th and Washington Streets. Any information should be directed to Two Rivers, Wisconsin Police Department at 920-793-1191. For a movie review this week, I know, I watched a movie, imagine that, God's Precious Jewels. This movie I found on Netflix, searching through their database for inspirational movies. It's actually a play that was placed in movie format, so you do see the audience periodically and hear them clapping and laughing as the scenes change. One thing I liked about this movie or play is the moral of the story, that although we may have a past that is far from polished and beautiful, we are still a precious jewel in God's eyes. The story takes us to a women's ministry prayer meeting where those who have been battered, abused, and in difficult relationships come together and discuss and pray for each other. The main character's name is Sunday, and she is a real estate agent who finds a possible love in one of her clients. Her sister Sasha is more materialistic and always finds herself with men that are not good for her or her soul. In the end, she has a change of heart and realizes what she's doing wrong, which leads her to a nicer guy, a Christian police officer. TV show review, Baggage. Like I said, I have so many new channels to pick from that I'll be reviewing random TV shows. This week's is a new reality game show on GSN, or Game Show Network, titled Baggage. It's hosted by Jerry Springer, go figure, and involves a woman or man trying to get a date. There are 3 possible options, but each has their own baggage in 3 different suitcases. The first round, they each reveal their smallest baggage, which is usually something that people can live with, like a cork. Like he likes to make smiley faces on his pancakes. The second round, the baggage is separate from its owner, and Jerry reveals each one's medium baggage, without knowing who it belongs to. Then, after all of those are revealed, the woman or man chooses which baggage they could not live with. Then, once that has been selected, the contestants are told to stand by their baggage. The one who claims the baggage that was chosen is then sent home. After that, the remaining 2 are put in the hot seat and asked a series of random questions before revealing their final piece of baggage. Then, the woman or man chooses which one they will go with. But there's a twist. The woman or man also has a piece of baggage, letting the contestant left standing then decide if he or she can live with the other person's baggage. Even though I don't believe in TV dating games, as I think you should meet your mate in a more casual way rather than airing your baggage on TV, it is a pretty funny show to watch. My fiancé and I enjoy watching it together, and we take turns trying to guess who they will end up with. We've had our share of yelling at the TV because they picked an idiot. For a book review, I know, I watched a movie, a TV show, and I read a book. Kip Campbell's Gift by Colleen Patore. This book is a young adult children's book, but I enjoy it anyway. It is a young adult series about a young boy whose family lives in and runs a funeral home. Kip is one of a few family members with a special gift, the gift of talking to the dead. It follows his travels of trying to lead a normal life amidst death. It's a great read for any young adult, or an adult like me that just likes an easy read every now and then. Our Reflection Corner. Today the church celebrates a feast of the Lateran Basilica of St. Peter and Paul. So a lot of the readings have to do with water. So if you have to pee, you might want to pause and go pee before I read. But first of all, the first reading is from Acts chapter 28, verses 11 through 16, and 30 and 31. 3 months later, we set sail on a ship that had wintered at the island. It was an Alexandrian ship with the Dicassary as its figurehead. We put in at Syracuse and stayed there 3 days. And from there we sailed round the coast and arrived in Rhegium. After a day, a south wind came up, and in 2 days we reached Puteoli. There we found some brothers and were urged to stay with them for 7 days. And thus we came to Rome. The brothers from there heard about us and came as far as the Forum of Abius and 3 taverns to meet us. On seeing them, Paul gave thanks to God and took courage. When he entered Rome, Paul was allowed to live by himself with the soldier who was guarding him. He remained for 2 years in his lodgings. He received all who came to him, and with complete assurance and without hindrance, he proclaimed the kingdom of God and taught about the Lord Jesus Christ. Our psalm is Psalm 98, verses 1 through 6. Sing a new song to the Lord who has done marvelous deeds, whose right hand and holy arm have won the victory. The Lord has made his victory known, has revealed his triumph for the nations to see, has remembered faithful love toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the victory of our God. Shout with joy to the Lord, all the earth. Break into song, sing praise. Sing praise to the Lord with the harp and melodious song. With trumpets and the sound of the horn, shout with joy to the King, the Lord. Our gospel message is Matthew 14, 22 to 33. Then he made the disciples get into the boat and precede him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. After doing so, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When it was evening, he was there alone. Meanwhile, the boat, already a few miles offshore, was being tossed about by the waves, for the wind was against it. During the 4th watch of the night, he came toward them, walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. At once Jesus spoke to them. "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter said to him in reply, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat and began to walk on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw how strong the wind was, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him, and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" After they got into the boat, the wind died down. Those who were in the boat did him homage, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." For my reflection, O ye of little faith. We hear this line all the time, but do we stop and think if it applies to us? How many times have we done something in school but had to keep asking the teacher if we were doing it right, instead of trusting in ourselves? Likewise, we probably wish we could turn to Jesus during a difficult situation and ask, "Am I doing this right?" Is this what you want? That is what we do in prayer, although an answer is not as immediate as we'd like. But that is where our faith plays a role. We need to start using our prayer life instead of acting on impulse decisions that possibly make things worse. We have 3 saints today. The first is Blessed Grimaldo Santa Maria. Grimaldo was one of the first members of the Passionist community. As recently as in the middle of the 20th century, the Ciacara region, situated between Latina near Rome and Campana near Naples, was among the poorest and most backward in the entire Italian peninsula. There, in the small town of Pontecorvo, Ferdinando Santa Maria, the son of a rope maker, was born on May 4, 1883. At a young age, he felt a calling to the priesthood, prayer, and meditation, but his father wanted him to take over his workshop. This seemed likely since the family was too poor to provide the boy with an education. But Fernando took an active part in the life of his parish. He worked in the associations of the Immaculate Lady and of the Holy Mother de Porta. As a teenager, he taught catechism to young children and even to his peers. After meeting popular missionaries from the Passionist order, Ferdinando realized that by choosing their way of life, he could fulfill his dream. At the age of 16, he entered the novitiate in Palermo. He took the habit and name of Grimaldo of Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Purification Day that falls on November 21st was particularly observed by the Passionists as the anniversary of taking monastic habit by St. Paul of the Cross, the order's founder. For Grimaldo, Gabriel of Our Lady of Sorrows, who was beatified at that time, was an example to follow in monastic life. Grimaldo combined diligence with exemplary monastic life and made up for the gaps in his education quickly. He was an excellent priest, but just at the beginning of his adult life, on November 18, 1902, he died of severe meningitis. His grave can be found in the Passionist Church in Cesano. He was beatified on January 29th of 1995. St. Odo of Cluny. Odo was the abbot of Cluny. Odo was the son of a French nobleman from Tours. Raised in the household of the Duke of Aquitaine, he planned to undertake a military career until he became seriously ill. For the next few years, he studied in Paris and Reims, pursuing his passion for music. When he returned to Tours, he became a canon at the Church of St. Martin. But Odo was still searching for an ideal life. In 909, he entered the monastery at Baume-les-Messieurs and was placed in charge of educating novices. That same year, the Duke founded a monastery at Cluny. As a result, the local bishop was stripped of his authority. When the Duke relinquished his rights as founder, the monastery came under the direct protection of the Pope, which eliminated any meddling by the local bishop. In 927, Odo was named abbot of Cluny. The monastery had already earned a reputation as a center of reform. When Odo arrived, he carried it even further. An idealist at heart, he insisted that the rule be strictly observed. Other monasteries had grown lax in keeping their commitment to poverty, celibacy, and obedience. With Odo at the helm, they all changed. He became known as the restorer of monasteries. Odo was a gentle persuader. When one group of monks resisted change and threatened Odo with weapons, he patiently spoke with them until they were ready to welcome him. In 942, Odo fell ill during a celebration honoring St. Martin and died a week later, but the influence of his reforms lasted for the next 150 years. Our last saint is Blessed Carolina Colonna. Carolina is the patron saint of Polish Catholic youth. In the Walruta village near Tarnow, the farmer family of Jan and Maria Koskona lived with their 11 children. Born on August 2, 1898, Carolina was the 4th child. The Kozwonas were very pious, yet Carolina stood out for her religious commitment. She went on pilgrimages to local Marian sanctuaries in Tokau and Oreskau. She belonged to many religious associations. She diligently strove to learn the truths of faith and to speak about them to her younger siblings and other children. She was encouraged by the parish priest from Zabawa, who was her spiritual guide. Carolina received a basic education in the local primary school, which she completed in 1911. Carolina lived within the borders of Austria. During World War I, during the first days of the conflict in the summer and fall of 1914, the area was attacked by the Russian army. War chaos and wandering groups of marauders also arrived in her village. On November 18, 1914, a Russian soldier dragged her into the forest. He tried to rape her, but she vigorously defended herself. The war did not destroy the order of her life, in which love of God and disapproval of sin remained her most important values. The soldier then murdered Carolina and left her mutilated body in the forest. After her body was discovered, she was buried in the parish church in Zabawa. Carolina was beatified by none other than Pope John Paul II, who's Polish himself, in Tarnow on June 10, 1987. Our closing prayer today honors Blessed Grimaldo of Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Jesus, Blessed Grimaldo of Purification of the Blessed Virgin Mary, imitated you, pure, obedient, and poor, and had a son's love for your mother. Grant that his intercession helps us live our life in a way worthy of the vocation you've given us. For you reign forever and ever. Amen. This week's fan of the week is Laura Cromlin, who decided to come back and play after a little time away. The correct answer was Wyoming. And this week's question will be answered through the show. So if you know the answer, comment or tweet me on Twitter. The question is, what nation can Latvians see by looking across the Mekong River from Vientiane? And I will see you next week for our special Thanksgiving show.